Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So remember how I told you about Queen A4? I didn't see it at all. King E7, so this is the game against Runinja. We're going to keep pumping. And this position is good for white because, number one, the king is looking clumsy. Number two, white has a very good amount of pressure, right? So for example, Um, if you get to bring the queen to f4 and you get to bring the knight to e4, that's going to be pretty overwhelming pressure. The idea of playing e4 and e5, as long as white has support on this e5 square, that's going to bring a lot of pressure. So in any case, if you look at it, it's going to take a while for g6, bishop g7, h6 for black to stabilize, right? So within that time, white needs to act quickly. And that's why the engine suggests bishop takes, queen takes, pawn takes, and after b takes, well, it really comes down to a few options. Number one, e4, e5. Number two, queen to f4 and knight to e4, just putting pressure here. And number three, rook a d1, knight c4, put pressure on d6. So it all comes that time is of the essence. But in the game, rook f2 was played, and to me, I felt this was awesome because I was given time. Bishop takes, king takes, queen check, and now this move h6. This is what starts my liberation process. Knight h3, interesting. Maybe going to f4. And here I play knight g4. I play knight g4 because I wanted to create some counterplay, right? But at the same time, I might have wanted to establish my pawn on f5, a pawn on g6, and try to solidify my position. So here, rook f3, f5, and f5 is actually a mistake. And here's what I realized from this experience. The fact is that f5 is very much weaker than if it was on f7. Knight f4, for starters, Runinja played such a great move, right? I played king f7 thinking that I was safe. And the move of the day that might have really crushed the position, d5, right? The only protector of the pawn is saying, well, after e5, knight to e6. If I play g6, well, queen takes g4. I know. That is just sad for me. So here after d5, I'm left with very bleak options. Just feels bad, right? So I really underestimated this awakening from white's position. Rook f3, f5, just knight g4 was not a good decision. So how do I really repair this position? Well, first of all, I guess I would have to work on bringing the king to a different place, right? Although I could play g6, I don't think this would be good for me because if pawn takes, and rook to f1, bishop g7, I think rook takes and queen to f4 is just deadly, right? So I can't do that. So always remember the queen swinging to f4 is something to keep in mind, right? So here, if knight g4 is not an option, I might have to play b5, queen c2, and I might have to ignore this threat just for now. I might have to one day play king e8, bishop to e7, and bring my rook over to f8 and try to regenerate that way, you know. So, but I was unaware at the time. I played f5 thinking I'd be okay. Knight to f4, threatening the fork, so I play king f7, and remember the move, boys, d5. So queen to b3 happened, I still played d5, so at this point I'm still in big trouble. Rook 8 f1, which is interesting, and I play knight to f6. I want to try to reinforce this d5 pawn. I could have also played c4, but I was worried about knight takes c4. I didn't know if this was too rocky, if you know what I mean. Right? If I play queen e4, there might be some c7 action, right? There might be some knight takes e6. I don't know, right? So there's uncertainty in this, and I don't want uncertainty. I want answers. So in the game, I played knight to f6. I wanted to reinforce this guy, but what I failed to remember was that white could play c4 here, right? And after c4, my position starts to really fall apart again. Pawn takes c4, and knight takes c4, going with the e5 square, so it's falling apart there. And if I play bishop d6, well, c takes d5, e takes d5, and I'm going to give an exclamation mark to the move e4, right? Pawn takes e4, knight takes e4. I know, knight takes e4. Now knight takes d5. That is a splendid masterpiece by white. Meanwhile, I am helpless, king on f7. So things aren't working out for me. And as you can tell, opening up the position is the way to go, right? So in the game, c4 isn't played, so thank goodness. Knight g2, a little bit slow, right? Now I play bishop d6, and after knight h4, I start stabilizing. g6, king g7, and now knight to e4. So I start taking over, and you can see that there's no longer really that threat coming down the f-file because the f5 pawn is just so well protected. Even if white plays c4 now, I just have enough forces to support the push, right? So knight takes e4 just added salt to the wound. I played pawn takes, and after knight takes f5, there was really no way for our friend Runinja to attack. Bishop takes pawn, rook g2, hoping that, okay, if I go bishop back, there might be rook takes f5, right? But I played queen to c7, and I just simply eliminated all that. King h1, I solidify my bishop there, I solidify my piece placement, and now I play f4. I go for the kill on h3, and instead of taking on h2, I recognize that this rook is going nowhere, right? And I think that's something we all have to recognize, that the pieces that are going nowhere, you don't have to capture them right away. They're basically like bait, like fish bait. They're waiting for you, and they can wait all day long until one day it's like, oh, I cannot wait any longer. That's when you take it. So I played f3, and after pawn takes and rook takes, I had one main objective. Queen to e4. Just pin like that. Queen to f1, let me just bring that rook to f8. Rook g2, bring it in, rook f2, and rook d1, queen to e5, and checkmate is here. So what really happened in this game, right? What really led to the downfall? Like, didn't I say that Runinja was doing so well? Well, yeah, Runinja was doing great, right? Knight g5. The critical move here was bishop to e7, but I didn't figure it out. I had to suffer the consequences of queen a4. But now the move rook f2 was a bit too slow, right? Like I told you, the action plans, pawn takes and queen f4, rook d1 and knight c4. So these are the action plans, e4 and e5. So many different ways of approaching it, but time is of the essence, right? When you're attacking, and you see that, okay, well, black has a few moves to get to normal. You need to disrupt the normal. And although that's hard, and although that might not be easy, um, it's going to help you win games if you know how to disrupt your opponent. Queen to b7, h6, and now knight to g4. So instead, what I should have done is b5, king e8, bishop e7, rook to f8, try to stabilize that way. But in the game, I thought placing the pawn at f5 was good. Little did I know, there was d5, there was c4, right? There was all so many break apart moments. But Runinja gave me time, right? And time is of the essence, so I got to place my pieces on the right squares, and I got to take a few pawns, and really this game came down to luck and the idea that Runinja gave me time. So I'd like to thank Runinja for giving me time, but it was a splendid fight, right? I was lost for much of the game, but in the end, because I was given time, I was allowed to fight back. So, without further ado, that was a good game. And have fun. Keep feeling the curiosity. Keep discovering what you like. Chess is a very interesting game, and I encourage you to take a deeper look into it because it may please you, but it may also fry your brain. So, excellent mind game, excellent mental training, but it's hard. So, I'll see you soon.